Wow.
All right, so I will call this meeting to order of the Murray City Planning Commission for June 6th. Want to welcome all of you in the audience and those viewing on Murray City's streaming video feed. For your introduction, I'll go tell you who the commissioners are here from your right to left. If I can remember everybody's name. Lisa Gavik, Maren Patterson, Phil Markham, myself, Ned Hacker, Lisa Wilson, Travis Ney, and our staff, Jared Hall and Zach Smallwood and GL Crutchfield in the back. Thank you. Let's see, we've excused this evening Commissioner Scott Woodbury. And let's see, a few guidelines for the audience. We'll welcome you, and I'd ask that you respect this forum. If you have comments to make during the meeting, we'll invite you up to the podium to make those comments during the appropriate item on the agenda. Ask that you turn off your electronic devices if you have one, and don't interrupt the meeting in that respect. If you do get a call, please take it out into the hallway. During your comments, we'll give you 3 minutes to make comments if you're making them for yourself. If you're representing an organization, we'll give you 5 minutes. And with that, I'd like to take a moment and honor the service members who participated in the 70-year anniversary of D-Day, which is today, June 6th, storming the beaches of Normandy. During some remarks that I heard today from the Normandy beaches from Prime Minister May, British Prime Minister May, she made the quote, "If one day can be said to have determined the fate of generations to come in France, in Britain, in Europe, and the world, that day was the 6th of June, 1944. So many of you, as myself, may have relatives or acquaintances who participated in the fight to liberate Europe. They were known as the Greatest Generation. They were the most humble people that I've ever known, and I guess that's my remarks. I've got a lot of respect for all of those people, and wanted to make that comment to respect their contributing to the life that we lead today. So with that, we will go to agenda item number 1, which is approval of minutes from Murray Planning Commission meeting held on May 16th. Any commissioners have comments regarding the meeting minutes?
No.
No.
All right. To entertain a motion to approve those.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the May 16, 2019 minutes as submitted.
All right. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
All right. Any additional discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion passes. Agenda item number 2, conflict of interest. Do any of the commissioners have conflict of interest regarding the agenda items this evening?
No.
No.
All right. And agenda item number 3, approval of findings of fact. Have commissioners had opportunity to look at those?
Yes.
And do you have any corrections, comments, additions? In which case I'd entertain a motion to approve those.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the findings of fact for the 3 items in our packet. Item number 1, an accessory dwelling unit for Deborah Crane. It was a conditional use permit for the property addressed 4981 South Lincoln Street. Also for a conditional use permit for Valley Behavioral Health for the operation of a daily program caring for adults with autism. The facility is located at 6230 South, 900 East. And Express Car Wash, a conditional use permit to operate that at 4608 South, 900 East.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Is any additional comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. So, agenda item number 4. Marlowe subdivision requesting approval for a flag lot subdivision of the existing single-family lot at 1246 West Winchester. And is applicant for that item here this evening? Good, thank you. We'll have you come up in a little bit. And Zach Smallwood will present this item.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is a request from Doug Marlowe to do a flag lot subdivision on 1246 West Winchester Street. Here you can see an aerial of the proposed the subject property. It abuts right next to the North Jordan Canal on the west side. On the north and east sides is an existing single-family subdivision, and then Winchester on the south side. It does have the one access on the southeast corner there, where you can kind of see the drive there. This is a semi-older picture, as this back mobile home that was here was demolished, I believe, in the summer of 2018. This current home still here on the south side still exists, but the one to the north does not exist anymore. This is in an R110 zone. All of our single-family zones allow for a flag lot, subject to meeting the conditions for flag lots, such as the flag lot has to be 125% of the size of a normal typical lot. So that would be 12,500 square feet. The applicant is proposing the front lot at 14,910 square feet. That would be along this area here. And then lot 2, which would be the flag lot, would be 14,979 square feet. With that, here's a grading and drainage. As you can see, the lot actually is kind of outside that very steep slope there. So engineering felt better about that, so that they weren't building into that area. One thing I did want to mention, we do allow this, back on this first page, is the way the setbacks are laid out. The front and rear setbacks are 25 feet each, and the sides are a minimum of 8 on one side, 12 on the other, but it has to equal 20. So we actually, for these back lots, we've allowed it so that this is the 25, and then this is the 25 rear. This allows for a better buffering from the North Jordan Canal area, and makes it a better lot overall. Additionally, this one was kind of flipped. This has the front facing onto Winchester Street, 25 feet, and 25 feet here with these sides. Allows for a little bit better lot. And then this is a preliminary utility plan that's showing they would be required to install utilities. Currently it's on septic, so they do need to install sewer lines and put in water lines, all those things, as part of the improvements here that engineering's requiring. Went out there today. One thing I wanted to mention is that I did get a call from 2 of the property owners to the east, and they would like that the applicant work with them to potentially install a new fence, as this one's kind of becoming a little bit dilapidated there. So we've got this fence here, and it goes along the whole east and north side of the property. Took some photos up on the, it's quite a steep slope up there. It's kind of fun and scary at the same time. So quite vegetated. That mobile home is no longer there, like I had mentioned. So staff is recommending that we approve this flag lot or that you guys approve this flag lot. I'm not approving anything. Subject to the 9 conditions stated in your staff report and up on the screen. Any questions for staff?
I have one.
Sure.
Go ahead. Can you speak to the condition number 1? The engineer recommends eliminating the basement crawl space. Is that simply because of the water table right there next
I
to the
believe
canal?
so, yes.
Okay. If they came in and submitted a home with a basement, a recommendation, you could move forward with it without?
So I believe Doug has had, Doug Marlowe, the applicant, has had discussions with Trey. He had called me on Friday, but I was out of town, so I am not fully versed on what their conversation entailed, but I know that they talked something about basements, and so I don't know the full.
But this condition wouldn't preclude them from moving forward with that if they wanted to do that.
Correct.
If they could engineer it.
Right.
All right, any other questions for staff? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Would applicant come forward, please? And if you state your name and your address, here you can just go to the podium. Name and address for the record.
My name is Doug Marlowe. The address is 1246 West Winchester Street, Murray, Utah 84123.
And have you had an opportunity to review the conditions, and are you able to comply with them?
Absolutely.
All right. Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
No, I appreciate Zach's work on this, as well as Trey and everyone that I've dealt with to this point. It's been top notch.
All right. Any questions from staff?
My only comment is condition number 1 is extensive.
Uh-huh.
And so I do hope that you've had the opportunity to take a good look at all of those things with the city engineer. There are some potentially pricey things in there, and so just want to make sure that you are completely aware of all of those specifics in that condition number 1.
Okay. And I have looked at it quite extensively, and I believe that our current plan, after speaking with Mr. Stokes, is that we didn't know that the back property would even allow for sewer to run out of the property and still meet the requirements we needed. So, we'd been kind of looking at probably a 2-story home on slab back there anyway. There's an existing basement on the front home, which I'm sure at this point would probably be demolished and take off, the septic and run all the sewer together at the same time. So I'm aware it's going to be quite expensive. My thought is offsetting that expense between the 2 lots is going to help me, quite a bit. So.
Well, it's an ambitious project, and it's very nice.
We live 2 doors away right now, and we looked at it as not only an opportunity to upgrade, but kind of clean up the neighborhood as well. So.
Great. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I will now open the meeting for public comment regarding this item. If anyone, please come forward, sir. If you would make a comment, come to the podium, please, and state your name and your address for the record.
I am Bob Worthland, President, North Jordan Irrigation. And I have no objection to the man improving his lot or building. But there is some serious problems along that canal bank that has been unearthed since they removed the trees. Originally, they were going to trim the trees, and then they just cut them all down. Mm. We've had several issues in that area with root rot and leaking. We have put a clay trench down the middle of that roadway, our right-of-way, to prevent it. And just recently, since the snows and rain have subsided a little, we have went in and restored the bank side, our bank side, water side of the canal with clay, bentonite, because this slope is dropping right into this man's property. Mm. I brought pictures that we have taken. We have worked on it extensively there. I'm hoping Murray City holds him to the same standard you did golf construction on the latest project down there where Murray really done a good job on keeping golf, away from the canal. IBC rules is no structure can be 50 feet from the structure of the slope of the canal. So that's IBC, International Building Code. I've been through this many times with golf and everybody else. Now, golf put in a retaining wall and went his way. We do think there ought to be fencing to keep any kids out of the canal there, because it is a waterway that has existed since 1880. And we still run commercial and industrial water and farm water, irrigation water in that canal, and it won't cease. So that's about my comment.
All right, thank you very
And
much.
this is my vice president, Ryan Robinson is with me. And I do want to see the plans on that slope, on what he intends to do with that slope. Now, if I fill it in with clay, it's going to come down and cut his property shorter. So these pictures will self-explain themselves. And I'll pass them around if you're ready.
I think we're fine. Thank you.
You don't want the pictures?
No, I think we're good.
We're not engineers. So.
All right.
Thank you.
Then I do need to see the final plan,
You'll be,
or I will be
Yeah.
with the city engineering.
you are absolutely invited to do that. All right. Are there any additional comments regarding this agenda item? All right, I will close the public comment period and ask the staff if you may be able to address that irrigation comment.
Yeah, Trey is very passionate about this. He's been worried about it, and we've talked about it quite a bit. I have full confidence that Trey's able to. He's the one that worked with Goff Construction as well. He's very thorough with these types of things, and he doesn't, it's our job as city staff as well to make sure that the health, safety, and welfare of our residents are protected. So Trey will be very adamant, and he will make sure that those are done. And as an aside as well, I believe condition number 1
It
does
does.
state that somewhere on there.
Contain a Salt Lake County flood control permit for any embankment or canal work.
There, and I
Just
believe it
one of
actually
them.
mentions the canals.
Obtain
the
North
canal-
Jordan Canal approval and
Yeah,
permit.
there you go.
Yeah.
So they will be seeing it as well.
All right.
Can I ask one question? And,
Sure.
and actually, Jared may have to answer this question just because of time.
ICIR.
When we approved one of the phases of Murray Bluff, didn't we actually make them pipe the canal at that location?
I can't recall if it was a condition, but they did pipe the canal for the part that I approved.
I want to say it was a condition, but I don't remember. Does anybody else?
No, I don't think it's been piped. No, I don't believe that's been piped.
Piped.
No,
Okay.
it's not piped.
With golf, you put in a sub-drain, so any water
Yeah.
that come out of
Yeah.
the canal would
Yeah.
pick up in the sub-drain and be drained away.
Right.
Thank you.
And what I would like to add, in my time here in the city and working for the city for a lot of years, the only issue that I'm aware of with that canal and with housing over there occurred from housing above the canal, that the slope slipped and went down into the canal and caused water to come into the rear of homes in Murray, and that was not anything that was the responsibility of the lower homes that are within Murray City's purvey.
All right, thank you. So, additional discussion by the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion that we forward a recommendation for preliminary and final flag lot subdivision approval to the mayor for the property located at 1246 West Winchester Street, subject to the 9 conditions in their report.
All right, I have a motion
Go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry. I'd like to second that motion.
and a second. Is there any additional discussion? So Zach, would you call a roll vote, please?
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkhaven,
Yes.
Commissioner Markham,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nate,
Yes.
and Commissioner Hammer.
Yes. So the motion passes, and a recommendation of approval will be forwarded to the mayor for his consideration. All right, thank you. Item number 5, Titan Development requesting approval for an amendment to the Murray City zoning map for the property address 5729 South, 700 West, from R18 Single Family Residential 8,000 square foot lot minimum to R16 Single Family Residential 6,000 square foot lot minimum. And is the applicant for that here? Good, thank you. We'll have you up in a little bit. And Jared Hall will give us staff report.
Okay, thank you very much. So as you mentioned, this is 5729 South, 700 West. The property is shown right there. This house recently burned. The lot's been cleared. Mr. Snow, Titan Development, has requested a zone change from the existing R18 zone that you can see there in the picture to R16. The lot is 0.36 acres, so about 15,682 square feet. The R18 zone in which it's located requires 8,000 square feet per lot. The R16 zone, as you would imply from the name, requires 6,000 square feet per lot. So the intent of the zone change is obviously to be able to split the lot into two parts. There's not quite enough land to split into two 8,000 square foot lots, but there's well more than enough land to split into two R16 lots. Not enough to split into three, just for the record, but into two. So we took that application from Mr. Snow for the zone change. I want to show you the general plan map. This is a section of the future land use map. For the record and for the public, the zoning map here shows the zone that's actually in place on the property, R18. The future land use map of the city uses different designations. They look similar and they sound similar, so it can be a bit confusing, but the future land use map is part of the general plan. Now that map is supposed to guide the kinds of zones that the city would entertain applying to different properties in the future, or if requests come in, or to achieve certain goals. So it's always the first step that we take in analyzing a request to amend the zoning map. This section of the future land use map shows the subject property outlined in red here, and you can see all of this land, including the A1 zoning across the street and all the R18 zoning that's immediately around the property, is in the low-density residential future land use category. That category includes or supports the zones A1 agriculture, R112, R110, R18, R16, and actually even R210, a low-density two-family, a duplex zone. We don't use that zone very much in the city. I think we only have 2 or 3 properties that are actually zoned that. We don't get many requests for it either. But in this case, as you can see, the property designation in the future land use map supports both the existing zoning, R18, and the requested zoning, R16. So that's where we kind of started with it. The map does support it. With that said, the zoning all around it, most of the zoning in the area is R18, or A1 as it is across the street just for a few lots, but a lot of R18 zoning. Normally, single lots like that, we don't often see or often support the rezoning of a single lot from one zone to another zone when many of the other lots are zoned that same way. But in this case, as we looked at the property, we did a little digging into the sizes of the properties in the immediate area. So the first image on the left there, here, you can see the subject property right here. All of these, for those of you that can't really see it from where you're sitting, all of these properties that are highlighted represent properties that are lots, residentially used lots that are less than 8,000 square feet. Now they're all zoned R18, but they are less than 8,000 square feet. They vary, but they would be similar in size, as you can really kind of see from this map. They'd be similar in size to the 2 lots that could be created if this were rezoned to R16. That's the case in 51% of the lots in this area here. And if we draw a circle, we didn't want, if you draw that circle real tight, I didn't put this in the report, but the closer you get in and the closer you stay to that subject property, the higher that percentage goes up until you get into the 60 and 70% range. We didn't want to overstate that, so we looked at the larger area and then took a quarter-mile radius using both sides of the street instead of just the east side of 7th West. And you still stay at well over a third. 37% of the lots in this quarter-mile radius are less than 8,000 square feet, although many of them are zoned R18. None of them are zoned R16. Given the fact that the prevailing lot size is more in line with R16 than it is with R18, and that the fact also that this lot, if it were rezoned to R16, would generate the possibility, not necessarily, we haven't had an application or anything, but generate the possibility of 2 new lots that were 7,000 plus square feet, much like their neighboring lots. Staff is supporting the zone change based on these findings. And those findings basically go through those points that I just made. If you go further than the mapping, than the future land use map, that does support it also, the other kind of tenets of the general plan that encourage single-family detached residential structures in nature for this area are supported by this kind of an application for change. So staff is recommending approval. The Planning Commission is a recommending body. You would be forwarding a recommendation to the City Council for final action, but we are recommending that that forwarded a recommendation from your selves would be for approval. Do you have any questions for staff at this point?
Yeah. Sorry. So on your planning review meeting on the 15th, engineering supported maintaining the existing zone.
Yes.
Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and I'll try to do it without being overly minimal. Trey always supports maintaining the existing zoning if the proposed zoning is less than the existing zoning. So if it results in 2 homes, based on just that fact alone, he'll support the existing zoning. End of discussion. That's just kind of the default setting for
He doesn't
engineering.
feel that this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back with the infrastructure in the area.
The recommendation was just the recommendation because that's what he would always recommend.
Okay. And then one other one. Could you talk about, because you're recommending that these lots front on Anderson.
Yeah.
What does that do to the fencing on 700 for that corner lot?
On 700 West, then it would mean that the corner lot would have to maintain clear view. So in front of the home, a fence would only be allowed to be 4 feet high if it's visible through it, and then it could go to 6 feet high to the rear of that.
At the rear of that?
At the rear
Okay.
of the home.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just, can you just, why are we recommending both houses face Anderson?
And it's not necessary really at this point. It's just something that we put in the staff report. It would be wise just to keep any traffic off of 7th West because it's the collector. We have an opportunity to subdivide side by side. On Anderson, that would be preferable, just so you're not directly backing traffic from a residential home into 7th West. So we'd advise that when it comes to subdivision, if that comes up. He may or may not subdivide, that's up to him. But if he did subdivide, we'd recommend that both of them face Anderson as a staff. So we just it's a precursor to what we would recommend in the future.
All right, any other questions for staff? All right, thank you. Applicant, do you like to come forward, please? And state your name and your address for the record.
Yes, my name is Mark Snow, and I live at 433 East Serenity Oak.
And have you had an opportunity to read the staff findings?
Yes.
And do you have any additional information for us in regards to staff report?
No, I just think 2 brand-new homes would be a good thing for this whole area. So it's a big lot, and it just needs something. It's just kind of a blight, that little area right there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, I will open this agenda item up for public comment. Would anyone like to make public comment regarding this agenda item?
One lady had a question.
If you'd state your name and your address, please.
Jillian Scheme, 5730 South, 665 West. So I'm just kitty corner at the back of that lot. I'm just really concerned about the parking and the driveways on Anderson. It's so close to the to 7th West and that corner area that I just don't see 2 driveways being directed that way. So it's concerning that way. It was purchased as an R18, and I just see it staying as an R18.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, my name is Kristen Macbeth, and I live at 712 Anderson, so I'm just behind that A1 that way, so I can see kitty corner this area. And so I was just wondering how big the houses they were going to build. Like, it seems like they'd be pretty small. Just because it's so weird. There's not a lot of consistency in that area because like the houses that were built over by the junior high, by the high school, those are a lot bigger. And so anyway, I was just kind of wondering if they're going to be just tiny houses or.
So we don't really have a project per se yet, but perhaps the staff can answer that.
Yeah, I just wondered like typically what kind of square footage
Sure.
are we talking about or whatever.
All right.
So.
Okay, thank you very much. Additional comments by anyone? Yes, sir. Come forward, please. Maybe you could state your name and address for the record.
Jim. I live at 661 West, 5735 South.
Yep. Jim, what's your last name, Jim?
Carhalios. Let me spell it.
Sure.
Karahalios. So two concerns. One, what type of houses are they going to be? The other one is I'm trying to get a second driveway on my property, and I can't get it because I'm too close to an intersection. So how are they going to get a driveway if I've got to be 50 feet from the intersection? If I can't get one 5 feet from the intersection, how are they going to get two on a split? That's going to meet that requirement.
Okay. And again, we can ask staff to address that. However, this particular item tonight really isn't, we don't know what they're going to build. So that'll be a meeting in the future.
Okay.
But we'll ask staff if we can address that a little bit as we go forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment? All right, I will close the public comment period and ask the staff to address a couple of these three questions.
Let me see if I can start with a couple of them. So let me go to lot size and home size. So lots that could be created under R16, again, like you mentioned, we're not considering that tonight, but with 15,682 square feet, these would be 7,800 square foot lots. That's 200 square feet less than an 8,000 square foot lot, which is absolutely typical for the city. Garbett Homes is building on 6,000 square foot lots. They're building 3,500 to 4,000 square foot homes. The footprint is not a challenge on a 6,000 square foot lot. The difference between 6,000 square feet and 8,000 square feet for home placement is a lot less than you would imagine, especially with newer home plans. So I don't have concerns that they would be somehow out of place in the neighborhood or smaller than the neighborhood. And as we pointed out in some of these depictions, none of these lots are 8,000 square feet. So if the homes aren't, they'd be typical or similar in size to those, I would imagine. So I'm not sure how large those are, but it's not difficult to, Ivory Homes new subdivision as well, that you're looking at 4,000 and 5,000 square foot homes on 8,000 square foot lots, and we're not significantly less than that if we create two new lots here. I'm sorry, Commissioner, did you?
You're about to say the restrictions, right?
Right, so
The garden.
the setbacks would not be altered by this. There are setbacks for R16 lots, just like there are for R18 lots. They are slightly less, 20-foot rear yards instead of 25-foot rear yards. Again, not a significant difference. Side yards are the same. Lot frontages are slightly less, 80 instead of 85. So that leads into the next point. 50 feet off of the intersection will not be a challenge. This is over 100 feet of frontage, so it's not the same kind of thing. As you look at the lot, across the street, there are two driveways here on two different lots, and those could be positioned very much the same way. We're not going to be too close to 7th West with an intersection, or as an intersection with a driveway on another lot on Anderson, based on that kind of a metric. So I don't see a challenge with that. We're not looking at a subdivision yet, but I don't see challenges going forward with the subdivision. If we did, we'd be recommending against a zone change that would allow a potential lot split. Trying to think if I missed anything in the comments there. Anything else?
One of the questions was parking on Anderson that might impede perhaps
sure.
the intersection near the schools.
Yeah, that's a police matter for parking too close to intersections. We don't deal with that through subdivision. That would be dealt with through the police department and the restrictions on parking close to intersections. So I don't know how to address that other than to bring that.
Well, and even with that lot vacant, people park, they're waiting for their kids to come in and out of school, and that isn't even without even a house there. So I don't think
You go to a home, you're less likely to have
park on the street.
People feel entitled to park in front of vacant lots a lot of times, more so than they do an occupied lot, but still. So I don't think we can really address that through the zoning. I think you're right. Anything else? Thank you.
All right. I'll bring it back to the commission for additional discussion.
I'll just make a couple statements. I think that the lack of consistency that was pointed out in the designs of the home in the neighborhood actually establishes a development pattern. It doesn't, not every home looks the same. I think that building something new in here is going to blend in very well with the overall neighborhood and the aesthetic of the neighborhood. And this is good quality infill. You're taking advantage of a piece of property, you're putting two homes on it, and as has been suggested, we're basically not compromising lot size with the exception of 160 foot a lot. So I think it's a good thing to see come in here.
I agree. And to go along with what you said, I know in that same subdivision, because I'm there nearly every day, there are houses that are oriented sideways to fit on those small lots rather than front facing. And so I think two houses on that lot's a good fit to go with what else is in that neighborhood. The bonus is going to be that you're going to have two new houses to kind of dress up that entry point.
Additional comments by commissioners, and I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval of City Council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation for the property located at 5729 South, 700 West from R18 Single Family Residential to R16 Single Family Residential.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Additional discussion? Ladies?
No, we're good.
Okay. Yes, please call the vote.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Markham?
Yes.
Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
Ms. Milkovich?
Yes.
Mr. Hacker?
Yes. So the motion passes, and a recommendation of approval will be forwarded to the Murray City Council for their consideration.
Which is another opportunity for you as neighbors to come out and voice your opinion to the City Council, just so you know.
Agenda item number 6 is Titan Development, requesting approval for an amendment to Murray City zoning map for the property address 347 East Winchester Street from R18 Single Family Residential to RNB Residential Neighborhood Business. And Jared Hall is going to give us a staff report. Is the applicant here for that? Thank you. Good. We'll have you up in a little bit.
Hey, Mr. Snow is actually also the applicant on this particular item. Different final zone. The property is situated right here just east of Fashion Boulevard. Fashion Place Mall is off screen. You can see it there. This is the north side of Winchester Street. The current zoning is R18, and I'm going to pause on this screen just for a minute to talk about the future land use map as we lead into the next part of the discussion as well. So the subject property is R18. You can see that the property next door is currently zoned RNB, as are those down at the corner, and as are a few other lots going up Winchester Street, as you're all aware. The general land use map, the future land use map in the general plan calls out the entire properties that front on Winchester Street on the north side are all called out to be for RNB if they so desire. So the city did not, in years past, opt to rezone all of those properties at once. As a city, they decided that it would be better as people aged out of those homes or as families wanted to sell those homes or redevelop them, they would let that happen on their own. So as the years have gone by, different lots have come in and rezoned to RNB. We've supported all of those zone change requests. I was trying to do a quick head count in my mind. We've supported all of those zone change requests. We've seen several of them redevelop and been pretty pleased with the results generally. So this is a small section, but if you were to pan out and look at that future land use map, you'd see that it goes all up and down Winchester Street. Again, the subject property right here. This is that second piece that's already zoned RNB. That's owned by Mr. Snow as well. So as they look at Titan Development, looks at trying to do a small development in the RNB zone here, it's tough to do on a single one of these lots. They're not real wide. So when this lot became available, they purchased it, and they'd like to combine the lots eventually and do a development. But the first step in that is to ask for that rezoning. As I mentioned, it's supported by the future land use map. We've gone through the process of analyzing that. We do feel like it would be an appropriate rezone for this property. It could result in a new development that we think is supported by the general plan. The purpose of the RNB, as you guys are all aware, is to create a buffer between Winchester Street and that busy collector that it is, and those established single-family neighborhoods that are further to the north. We do that on 9th East as well. And so far, we're seeing some good results from that. We think as it finishes out, we'll see really impressive results from that, stabilizing that neighborhood. So we've made those findings. Those are kind of what I've just been through. Those zone changes will support the general plan by stabilizing that neighborhood and helping to stop sort of to buffer that traffic, or the residential area from that traffic, and support that goal of the general plan, create an opportunity for buffering there. We are recommending that you forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council to rezone that property from R18 to RNB. Any questions for staff?
I would just like to mention that as far as I'm concerned, this is kind of our rock star of zoning designations. We've had great success applying this zone to this particular area, and I'm very proud of the projects we've done to date.
Thank you. We are too. We've loved them all. So.
Other comments? Okay, thank you. Mr. Snow?
Mark Snow, 433 East Serenity Oak Lane.
And have you had an opportunity to read these particular staff findings?
Yes, yes.
All right. And would you like to add any additional information to the staff report?
No, we purchased the other piece to the west about almost 2 years ago. We've been still waiting for the other one to come available, so we're in negotiation with the piece to the west. So I think it'll be a great area. Be a good-sized company, so we build good quality products. It'll be a good thing for the area.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So again, I will open the meeting for public comment regarding this agenda item. If you would state your name and your address for the record, please.
Thank you. I'm Victoria Adam. I live right behind on 6340. So I've lived with the zoning situation for over 40 years. I've seen that development. And I knew back then that this was the project that the city wanted to do. My concerns this evening are, how are we going to protect, or how am I going to be protected from, I'm not sure, Mark, what type of building or business you're going to put in. That's inevitable. I just wanted to know what type of protection that the residents to the east and to the west of me and to the ones that go out to Winchester, how are they going to be protected? Is there going to be a wall or a fence built? And I know that I've established my fence line for 40 years now, and I'm not sure if that's going to all have to be taken up and then a fence put in. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. So that's my concern this evening, is because I'm grateful, actually, because I've seen those old buildings for 40 years, and the back of that garage would be a nice change for me. So, you know, even a wall would be a nice change for what it is. So I'm a little bit curious as to what type of protection that we would have, if it would be a stone fence or if it's going to be a fence at all, because of the fact that if it's a business, you've got traffic on that side, and you've also, depending on the business, have people coming in and out, and I'm not sure that I want somebody over the wall in my backyard.
Excellent comments. Thank you. Any additional comment? All right. I will close the public comment period and ask Jared to address Ms. Adams' concern.
What you're really asking me to do is to do a better job of my job, because I should have gone over some of those things, but you know how I am.
So I'd add first that, again, we don't have a project here tonight, so this would be something to the future which the property owner would have to address, but we've seen it enough that Jared can give you an idea of what to expect.
So the standards in the RNB zone, it's a different zone, and like we said, or like we've said in the past, it is a zone that was designed to be a buffer between that traffic on Winchester Street and the residential neighborhoods behind. And as such, the uses are fairly limited. Hours are limited. In the city of Murray, in the CD zone, for example, in our general commercial zone, we don't have limits on hours, but in the RNB zone we do. Nothing after 10 p.m. And in most cases, the uses that are allowed are uses that would be vacated after 5 or 6 o'clock at night. So you don't have a lot of weekend work. We don't allow drive-through restaurants, gas stations, things like that. So you're looking at office uses and very small, light sorts of other businesses. We do have I think in one instance on Winchester Street, we have a small dental lab. They make crowns and composites and things. They leave at 5 o'clock, and other than that, they're just slaving away drilling and making all the things that I can't afford for my teeth right now. But those are the kinds of uses that we see. So you won't see a lot of other things like that. We have some lawyers' offices, a lot of dental offices, optometrists, and things like that. So those are desirable because they're able to deal with the other restrictions that we have in the R&B zone, which are restrictions of scale. So this planning commission, no new buildings get built in the R&B zone without the review of the planning commission for a conditional use permit. And as they review that, so you'd get in the future when when Mr. Snow's ready to build a new building here, he'll have to come back and review that with the planning commission and show the masonry fence that we do require a buffer wall. So a masonry, a stone, or a lot of times it's concrete post and panel that they'll put up 8 feet tall and 10 feet of buffer. We'll ask for trees and things like that in that to kind of buffer sound and light. We ask for photometric plans to show that there's no light polluting across the property lines. Heights are limited, actually. In the residential zones that you're all in, you're allowed 35 feet for height, but in the R&B zone, no buildings get to be taller than 30 feet, so that we're sure that there's not an impact that way. New structures, even though they're commercial structures, are supposed to look somewhat residential in nature. So we ask for pitched roofs and stone materials and things like that, so it doesn't get to look like a block building with a metal roof doesn't get to go in this zone. It has to look sort of residential and blend in. So there are a lot of sort of controls that are design oriented and site plan oriented that we don't get to go over really here for a zone change, but when the building comes in for a permit, it has to first come through the planning commission and have all of those things considered. The landscape buffer, we actually look at the parking as well, and the scale of the building, which means that we don't want to see 25,000 square foot office buildings here. The biggest we've seen actually is 15,000 square feet. And even those with the pitched roofs and things don't look as big as they are. We ask for a lot of different things that kind of break that mass up so it won't look much bigger than the homes that it's near. So all of those kind of things we try to use in this R&B zone to address those kind of problems or those kind of concerns that residents would have. So I hope that answers your question. Does that make sense? And you'll get another shot to be here and listen to us talk about all those things when it happens. So.
All right, thank you, Jared. Any additional comments, discussion from commissioners?
I would just like to encourage Ms. Adams to go to 9th East across from Wheeler Farm, the west side of 9th East. You will see those professional buildings that are located there. Mm-hmm. That is this zone. That was all permitted with this in mind. That is our vision for Winchester as well, that this buffer will be in place and shield the neighborhood and protect your property for the future.
The Advocates Building on Winchester
Yes.
is another one that's a great
That's an
example
excellent
of it.
one.
Yeah.
Staff can give you some specific addresses there. I agree with Commissioner Markham. It is a great zone, and it looks wonderful where it's in place today. Yeah. All right.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested zone map amendment for the property located at 347 East Winchester Street from R18 Single Family Residential to RNB Residential Neighborhood Business.
All
I
right.
like this.
Motion
I'd like to second that motion.
and a second. Is there an additional discussion? And Jared, would you call for the roll vote, please?
Patterson.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Markham.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Nay.
Yes.
Mr. Hacker.
Yes. So the motion passes, and a recommendation for approval will be forwarded to the Murray City Council for their consideration. All right, item number 7. is from the Murray City Planning Division. Proposing text amendment to the Murray City Code, specifically Title 16 Subdivision Ordinance Regulations.
Okay, so I appreciate your time and your patience with me tonight. So these are regulation changes to the subdivision ordinance that we talked about some time ago. Jim McNulty from our office had been working on them. He's unable to be here tonight, so I'm going to try to fill in for him as best I can. I don't know these as well as he does, but I'll try to answer your questions if I can. The subdivision ordinance changes. There was a main purpose, and that was to clarify that the Planning Commission would become the actual land use authority for subdivision applications in the city, the way that you are for conditional use permits, et cetera. So right now, for example, tonight you've approved a conditional use permit or a recommended approval for a flag lot subdivision, and you recommended approval for 2 zone changes. A conditional use permit, like we just discussed with the R&B zone, yours would be the approval and it wouldn't go on anywhere from you. In reality, the subdivision that you approve haven't been really going anywhere either. They go to the mayor for a signature on a plat, but his signature, he's not holding a review meeting, he's not doing any research or anything. All the work is happening here. So the suggestion was that state code 109A604 allows the Planning Commission to be that land use authority, and that's kind of how we were functioning anyway. So this change makes that official. You would be the approving body for subdivisions, and the mayor would still sign plats, but he would do that in an administrative, well, I'm getting the wrong word, but in a non-discretionary and ministerial way. There you go. So that sounds really more important than it is. He would still be signing plats, but you would be doing the work of making the approval. That's the main thing that it did. Along with that, we wanted to address a couple of other things that had been problematic for us in the past. We had been talking about an administrative and development services director in that code. We no longer have that department. It no longer exists, so we're qualifying that language to community and economic development director or their designee. Also, we've always, as a practice, as a city, we've had a policy of allowing subdivisions that were 10 lots and less to be approved for preliminary and final and reviewed for preliminary and final approvals at the same time. We wanted to codify that and make it actually the rule instead of just our practice. We've done that here in this code. There are those times when we feel like there are complicated easements or things that mean that it needs to be separated, but in general, 10 lots or less we can review and approve together for preliminary and final. And then speaking of preliminary and final, we had no expirations, no really qualified expirations on our books. So preliminary plat approvals would be, under this code change, good for 1 year. If within that year they had not moved on to final or made application for final, they would need to first come to the Planning Commission and ask for an extension before that year expired. The same for final. If a final plat approval is granted, then before that year had expired and they hadn't recorded, they would need to come to the Planning Commission and ask for an extension. We mentioned in the pre-meeting changing the language slightly to ask for that to say submitted for recording, because it can sometimes be a challenge with the county not recording and bouncing it back, and if we're close to the end, it's really no fault of the applicant in that case. I think we can accommodate that language pretty easily. We'll look at that with the attorney's office, with your permission. And those are the things that we wanted to address with this Title 16 change. So, any questions? Those should be, with the exception of maybe a couple of little items. That's basically what we talked to you about several months ago. Okay. Anything in there that you need more clarification?
Well, Jared, what if the mayor, for some reason, doesn't agree with our action, and he has the option to sign? What if he refuses to sign?
I have no idea what would happen in that case. Because his ministerial action, I don't know how that would work. If you're the land use authority, it's not uncommon for the Planning Commission to be the land use authority and still have the mayor acting as the mayor sign the plats. But in that case, I don't know what we would do. Probably have the Planning Commission chair sign it instead. But this takes it out of the city council and the mayor's purview for action and puts it with you as the land use authority. So my inclination is to say that one of you would sign it instead.
Okay.
I don't know if that's correct or not, and Jill's sitting back there probably staring at
He hasn't objected yet. He hasn't jumped. He hasn't jumped up to grab your neck, so you're okay.
Let's go with I'm right.
He's getting nervous, though.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but we can look into that.
I was just curious.
You just like to ask hard questions. It's okay.
No, I see how our national government works, and I just wonder if that ever bleeds down to this level, how it would be dealt with.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? Thank you.
Should I ask for clarification?
Sure, I
you
think
s-
so.
You know, you stated that you're interested in addressing the discussion in the pre-meeting about changing it from recording within 1 year to submitting
Right.
with 1 year. Do we need to have that in our approval, any discussions in our conditions, or just
I
take?
think the discussion's enough. If it wouldn't work for some reason, we wouldn't want to do it. So I don't want to make the change tonight or tell you that we for sure will make that change. I want to take it up with the attorneys and make sure that that will work and not foul anything else up. But the thinking behind it is sound. It would alleviate a potential problem. I think we can probably accommodate it, but that's probably enough.
I'm okay with the
That
answer.
work?
Just make sure we're following procedure.
All right, excellent, thank you. All right, I will open this agenda up for public comment. Any public comment? Yes, ma'am, come forward, please. If you would state your name and your address for the record.
Donna Lou Argyle, 332 East, 6280 South. We spend the winter down in St. George, and so I don't know what's going on in my immediate neighborhood. They're on 3rd East and 5900 South. We knew that all those buildings and homes were going. What's going to happen in that big property?
All right, we can answer that, even though that's not.
And the second,
much.
all these years, that huge property across the street from the James Point Apartments there on, I guess it's Winchester, about 7th East. Whatever's going to happen to that property?
Okay,
That's it.
thank you, ma'am. All right, so those two items really are not part of this. However, we try to accommodate all of our citizens, and Jared will answer those questions.
Did you close public comment?
Oh, you gotta close.
Oh, excuse me. So are there additional public comments?
I'll sit down if so.
Thank you. So I will close public comment period and ask Jared to please answer her questions.
I can do that. So if I'm getting the right location, 3rd East and 59th South, so Fashion Boulevard and 59th South.
Yellow House?
Yeah. So, well,
No.
that's
No.
50,
That's
you're
the
thinking
Roderick
56.
property, I
56,
think.
That's right.
So that property has been purchased by Roderick Enterprises. They're currently looking at potentially developing a building there. We don't have any plans yet, but that's who's purchased the property.
And the zoning
General
for that,
office, right?
Zoning is mixed between CD zoning and general office zoning. They'll probably move toward rezoning it all to general office, but we haven't had that application yet either. But they're looking at doing an office building for themselves. They're a development company. They're currently located on Vine Street in Murray right now. They'd like to stay in Murray, but need a bigger space, and they might be able to build, depending on, we have lots of rules about how tall you can be and how close you can be to residential in the GO zone. So depending on how big a building they can do, they may have enough space to lease to somebody else, but primarily the building would be for themselves. We don't have any applications yet, but that's the plan. We've met with them a couple of times and know that that's their intent. So they're not in any big hurry, so I wouldn't expect to see any changes real fast. And then the other property, I think, if I'm getting it right, is the Robert Smith property, Bedford
Yes.
Properties. So we don't have any new news on that, but it is owned by a single entity. They've tried to rezone it a couple of different times to general office, and we would support rezoning it to RNB, actually, on that side. That's the only zone they've never wanted to rezone to. So we'll keep waiting to see what happens. We don't have any information about what they want to do with it, other than they've wanted to do things in the past that we can't support. They wanted to put an assisted living facility there that we couldn't support with the R&B zone, that kind of thing. So, but no new news for about 1.5 years now on that property. I haven't heard anything new.
So let me ask you this, Jared. So if you're out of town, St. George, how might a resident of Murray find out these kind of questions?
Right. So I actually spend a significant portion of my day on the phone with people who have been out of town. And so does Zach and everybody else in the office. You can always call, and we're happy to talk about that kind of thing. If you're of a mind, you can watch these kind of proceedings on, we video feed all of this on you can go to the city website and watch older streams of this meeting, but you can watch live stream of it too. But
Younger
really
versions
the
of
best
us.
way is probably to call the office, call the community development department, and we'll talk to anybody about it.
Or if,
It's amazing to watch. It's just fascinating to watch.
They're riveting. You can't take your eyes off them.
Along those lines, do you have to watch, or are there minutes posted as well?
Oh, minutes, yeah, minutes are always online as well. You can read what's happened in the minutes.
And if you live in proximity of a property, you will get notice from the staff that there is some action to be taken on a property, a specific property. But you have to be in
300.
You'd have to be within a certain distance to get a notice. But we do actually take a significant number of calls just from people that are curious about what's going on with I bet I've taken no less than 24 calls about the property at 3rd East and 59th South, and Zach's probably had more than that because he answers the phone better than I do.
One
But,
of them
yeah,
was me.
We take a lot of calls. Yeah, one of them was, first one was you, actually.
All right, thank you.
All right.
So I will bring it back up here for any additional discussion by the commissioners or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the proposed amendments to the Murray City Code Title 16 Subdivision Ordinance Regulations.
A motion
I'd like to second that.
and a second. Is there any additional discussion? And then I would ask Jared for a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Markham?
Yes.
Mrs. Lukevich?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes, please.
Yes. So this motion passes, so a recommendation of approval be forwarded to the Murray City Council for consideration. And if they pass it, then next time this happens, this board, this commission, won't have to pass on a recommendation. We can vote on it. So wonderful. All right, those are our agenda items for this evening. Are there any other business items from the staff?
Just a quick reminder, I'm all talked out, so I'll be super fast. Quick reminder that we will not be having a meeting on July 4th. I didn't think anybody would come, so we went ahead and canceled that. We're not rescheduling it or anything. We're a little lighter on applications right now. We have a small agenda for June, tell me the date. Is it
20,
June 20th?
yes.
We only have 2 items for it, so if you were thinking that you couldn't come because you have something, I can get you out of here in like 20 minutes, promise. They're not even controversial items, so I promise it'll be easy. And there's just the 2. And that's really it. I just wanted to make sure you know we're not having that July 4th meeting. So the July 18th meeting will be a little heavier maybe than normal, so be aware.
Great.
Okay?
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else from commissioners? Anybody like to continue
Motion
this
to
meeting?
adjourn.
Oh, we have a motion and a second,
Second.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're adjourned.